What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out the AK5 Swedish military assault rifle. This is by Administrative Results. I've never watched this guy's channel on here before. I have actually watched this channel in my own time before, and I didn't know that it was the same channel. Let me pull something up real quick. I watched this video. I'm really into bow and arrows and like medieval weapons. And I watched this video not long ago and thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I just didn't put two and two together that he's also done this one, this AK5 video. And so I'm excited to watch this because I've already watched one of his videos and I know they're really good. I've been recommended this. I think it's because there's like a cross section of interests here. I've been recently doing a lot of videos on kind of like this gun community on YouTube that I didn't really know was a full thing. So Brandon Herrera, we've got Demolition Ranch, Garand Thorm. I didn't really know that this was like a whole community, and I'm just starting to learn about it. And so I'm kind of like going through all the main figures of that community and enjoying it. But also recently I did some videos on Nordic countries that have joined NATO and their weapons. And so I feel like this is the perfect fit of both interacting with that community of people that everyone seems to absolutely love, but also learning about something that the other part of my reaction videos are really interested in. So this is going to be a really cool video. It's a long video, being at 20 minutes and 30 seconds. So sit down, get yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, relax, get some snacks. Let's watch this. Let's learn about this Swedish military assault rifle. If you want to watch the video without me waffling over the top of it, you can always go and do that. You know you can. It's always at the start of the description down below, and I highly recommend you go over to his channel and like and subscribe. In fact, go over to his channel and watch the one about the bow as well, because it's absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. Do we have anything else to announce? If you want to see all the equipment I use, it's in the description. Let's shut up. Let's watch this. I'll turn subbies on, and that's not subbies. That's going to the end of the video. And let's see what it's all about.
Gentlemen, today on Administrative Results, we are going over this.
Why does it look like it's at like, yeah, 4080p? Chill, mate.
Gentlemen, today on Administrative Results, we are going over the Swedish military rifle known as the AK5.
It's nice. Oh, look at that. That's cool. That's so cool. Just like a video game. That's really cool. What great editing. That's so cool. All right, if this music, I'm just going to turn it down because I don't know if it's copyright claim music. Nice looking rifle. It is a very interesting looking rifle because it's almost different enough from an AK variant to not instantly be like, oh, that's an AK. Unless you look a little bit closer and you're like, oh, yeah, look at that. It is an AK variant. Very interesting. I mean, the AK variant is one of the most probably the most successful variant of a weapon of all time. And so it makes sense that they would adopt that style and create other weapons. I mean, anything's got to be better than the SA-80, right? What I used in the Commandos, in the Royal Marines Commandos. Cool little montage. I feel like you're not really a gun channel unless you have some sort of montage at the start. Like, I've been watching a couple of these community members now that do these gun videos, and they all start with a montage. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you can't not. It makes sense because it gets you hyped for the video, doesn't it? It's a cool weapon. Is stock foldable by the looks of it? I don't know whether that's got a silencer on the end there or whether the muzzle's just really big. Oh no, it was the flashlight on that one then. It was just at an angle where the flashlight looked like it was at the front of the weapon. What are you doing?
There's like 50 guys over there. They're all rushing Alpha.
They're all rushing Alpha. Administrative Results. Okay.
Gentlemen, I know you're on the toilet. I got you. I got your ass. Make sure you wipe. And make sure you also like and subscribe. Leave a comment.
The amount of videos I watch on the toilet, so it would make sense that something like this would pop up and I'd be on the toilet. So fair play to him.
In the comment section down below, your comments are a sacrifice to the algorithm. God of which who enjoys a beautiful sunset. We're all gonna make it, bros. We're all gonna make it. Now, the AK5 came about to replace the AK4, go figure. If you're wondering, hey, admin, that doesn't look like an AK platform, and you would be right. It does not look like a standard AK platform. It looks more NATO-ish, more of the Western world. And what it is,
and so you look a little closer and you're like, oh yeah, like I get it now, I can see it.
Is that the Swedes have this term, it's like automatic carabiner or whatever it is, in weird, funny Swedish words. The Nordic language is very confusing and not Latin-based to me, so I can't understand the premise. But with that out of the way, the AK, it's essentially that. It's Assault Rifle 5 for what they would call it. So this replaced what was the licensed version of the G3 that the Swedes were using, and I believe they still use variants of it here and there in their military. And what they have now is a 5.56 being used in their military for the most part.
So is this a relatively new weapon? This video came out in October 2023, and so it must be a new weapon. And so unlike the US that's adopted a different round, they've stuck with 5.56.
You guys admiring my sweet Swedish desert camo that I got from Americana Piping Apparel, sponsor of the channel. Wow, what fantastic young Zoomers they are. I said, wow, they have excellent taste in camo, excellent tape and milsurp clothing. I said, they're one of the best, one of the best. I love those guys greatly. They take good care of me on this channel. They will take great care of you as a customer. They are fantastic, and they are funny, and you should go follow them on social media as well. I don't know.
Do you know, I haven't watched enough of any of the other gun YouTube channels yet. So like Brendan Herrera and Demolition Ranch and Grand Thumb and all that lot. But I feel like this guy, I don't know why, but I feel like his content is more, and maybe it's biased because he's done a bow video and I'm really into medieval weapons, but it seems like I'm more connected to his content than anyone else's for now.
Why they even sponsor me, because they are so funny themselves, but I am happy that they do. So link for them will be down in the description below. Go check them out. So big thank you to those guys. We also have to thank American Heart for Gold. Now, American Heart for Gold, if you like precious metals such as brass and lead, I think you'll like the option.
Fast forward it there a bit.
So this AK5 is going to be an amalgamation of different things going on. So if you're wondering what the base gun for an AK5 is, you are most inquisitive. Good for you. So essentially what happened is back in the day, the FN was being tried out by a bunch of different folks, and the Swedes were like, hey, let's give this thing a go. And essentially FN licensed the FN to the Swedes, and the Swedes picked it up and they modified it to their liking to fit their big old Nordic fighting style of being in the Arctic tundra. Winter is coming. They're essentially like,
yeah, so this weapon's got to be really, really good in cold conditions. I mean, it's got to be good in any condition because, let's be honest, like, if a war kicks off and NATO's involved, it could be anywhere around the world. And so it has to be good in both hot, desert, dry terrain and cold, wet, freezing terrain up north as well.
like Northmen. It's like, it'd be like Game of Thrones Northmen. They need a gun that can fight beyond the walls. So that's what the Swedes did. What a nerdy reference for a nerdy channel. Wow. Wow, amazing reference. So that's essentially what the Swedes did.
I'm a nerd, so this works for me.
And that brings us to here. So they picked it up in the mid-'80s to replace the AK4, bringing us to the AK5. Now, the AK5 is kind of like, I would equate it to an M16 of the American standards. And as time would progress, the Swedes realized that the AK5 was lacking in certain modularity aspects, and they wanted to upgrade it and eventually get to the AK5C. Many of you should be familiar with the AK5C if you've ever played Battlefield 4. The AK5C in that game garnered quite a cult following amongst the nerdy crowd, me being one of them, and I'm sure amongst you too. Now, what we have going on here,
I'm not a massive fan on the handguard of it, though, if I'm honest with you. I feel like the handguard reminds me a lot of the SA80 handguard before it got replaced by the one that has the Picatinny rail on it. I'm not a fan of them, like, plasticky style handguards. I just don't think they work as well as what I get they're cheap. That's why they do them. They're cheap, and they are relatively decent when it comes to heat like placement, but still, I think a more modernized version where you can adopt some sort of under second grip would be very nice.
Here is the upper is going to be an AK5 and the lower is going to be reminiscent of the AK5C. Now, I should give you guys a further disclaimer. So what this video is supposed to be, I will say that this video is supposed to be a overall look at the gun. This isn't necessarily a review. To be quite frank with you, there's not a lot of content on YouTube on the AK5. And even if there was, I want to do it for my own sanity because I'm a dirty YouTuber. I'm a dumb gun guy. I'm a silly goose, most importantly. I'm not telling you how to get an AK5, but you should stay to the end because I'll tell you how to get an AK5. Okay, so as I was saying, this AK5 is cool, but it's not mine. It belongs to my dear friend Otter Weapons. All right, Joel, get over here. Joel, thanks for coming back onto the channel,
Absolutely.
man. Good to have you back. You have a very impressive, fun clone collection. We call you the General of the Clone Wars.
General Kenobi.
this is gonna be your AK5 that you painstakingly is what you told me built out. It said it took you a number of years to get all this particular parts out here, and I just wanted to give you the chance to go over the gun yourself real quick, and you can answer some of my questions that I have.
Sure.
If they pop up.
I bought this rifle probably about 12 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, on Arms List. Actually paid for a rifle and it showed up at an FFL. I didn't get scammed. Paid about $2,500 for it, and it was...
Ooh, $2,500 before it was even like adopted into what it is now. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money.
a standard FNC, like from Al Pacino in Heat. Picked it up on Arms List for about $2,500 and had it in a 5 FNC configuration for a while. Like you, I was a Battlefield 4 guy. I had to try. I was on the forums a bunch, FAL file.
You know what? I really wish Battlefield 2024 was decent. Like, it breaks my heart what they did to that game. It could have been, like, we were literally, and this is a whole tangent I'm going to go on here. We were on the downfall from Warzone, right? Warzone was not what it used to be. We're all struggling to enjoy it. And there was such a perfect opportunity for Battlefield 2024 to come in and just absolutely dominate. And they flopped so hard and it sucked, didn't it? It really did. And it gives me no faith in the Battlefield franchise anymore.
Uzi talk, just looking for parts. The Swedes treat all gun parts like firearms. So that's why you can never find the parts, is because they don't export them, and how they get here, way beyond me. Started off basically just trying to track down the parts. When the gun was imported, they had to cut the rifle grenade ring off, so you just had a flash hider. The handguard, modified it so we could put a light on it. The optic setup, and then the coolest part, this is an actual trigger module off an AK5C that I got from a Swede. Pretty awesome.
That's really cool.
And then the AK5C stock, the sling, the selector, the grip, and the winter trigger guard. All that's left in this gun that's really an FNC is the upper receiver, the bolt carrier group, and the barrel.
Okay.
That's really impressive that he's been able to find all them parts to make it, isn't it? That's actually really, really impressive.
Everything else is a Swedish part or a made part. It took me about 10 years of collecting parts
Holy!
to make it happen. It was not the easiest clone.
Right.
And I am one of very few in the US that have one, so
Yes.
pretty cool.
How many do you think are floating around, clones or?
Probably less than a dozen where there's actual parts. Now there is talk that Sweden is going to go away from the AK5 and potentially somebody like Apex Gun Parts might be able to get like the kits. The rear sight.
Yeah, that would make sense. If they moved away from it, then they would be sold privately, you know, and most likely people in America would be getting hold of them at that point.
It is actually an AK5 rear sight, so I actually took the FNC sight, cut it off, and then re-welded a AK5C. Because this
Wow.
was coated in '89, it wasn't Cerakote at the time, so it's got this really unique Swedish glossy green,
Yeah.
so you'll kind of see a difference.
How similar is that paint job to, say, a Swedish K?
So pretty close. The green is very indicative of the Swede weapons. So, and they also made these in black too. So sometimes you'll see, and I think we saw pictures of, I don't know if they were FNCs or they were black AK5s in Ukraine. So
Interesting.
They're finding their ways on the battlefield still. And the only thing I couldn't find was the AK5 dust cover, which basically has like a rib here. That's the only.
Gotcha.
But then the charging handle is big. And then this is an actual Aimpoint CS, which is the Swedish military optic that Midway had a bunch on blowout for like $300. And then my friend at Aimpoint gave me the mount, the B&T mount. And so now we've got a red dot on it. So
Good on him for getting this thing together. Obviously, it's a bit of a Frankenstein, but it's definitely, you know, to the point of what he needs it to be. Absolutely fantastic that he's done that.
do your worst, sir.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for stopping by again.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Of course. Joel forgot to mention his light setup real quick. So he essentially, did you drill into this?
Yeah, so I basically just opened it up with a Dremel and then used an M-Lock Magpul rail.
It's
And
really
then just
cool.
threw the mod light on there and then just used some Ranger bands to hold the tape switch.
I guess he covered it then. We're good. So cool thing about this gun too is that the grip itself is gonna be a 249 grip, but just in green. How fun is that? Wow, wow. Okay. I will say that the Aimpoint CS optic really is pretty cool. I like that the adjustment is very simple. You can either dial up or down on the bottom, and then the side, we'll get some good B-roll shots of it, but the side has a built-in.
I'm trying to look at like because he was explaining all the different pieces. You can start to see the different tone cut, like the different colors of green. I don't know whether it'll come through for you guys to be able to see it. If you go to the original video, You can see like the color difference here on some of the pieces, which is really interesting. I almost like it because it shows that he's really worked hard to get all these different pieces together. Do you know what I mean? Like, it almost as if it's embracing that, and I kind of like that in a way.
Tab, and I like that more than what the current aim point optics are for adjustment. For whatever reason, I saw that and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I like this a lot. Then you have the top Picatinny mount on the red dot itself, which I think is really cool for modularity. Now, it is interesting seeing the Swedes go through a similar thing that the Americans went through, where M16 is kind of getting outdated, so they need to make it a little bit more modern. And do we want to get a whole new gun, or do we just make what we have that is tried and true even more up to date, right? You know, M16 to M4, AK5, AK5C. So I think that is pretty neat and pretty cool. So seeing the upgrades that they have makes a lot of sense. Coming in.
It makes me wonder what they would actually upgrade to. Like, is there like any article? New Swedish rifle. Let's see if there's anything. Okay, March here. Finishing Swedish Defence Force to acquire joint range of firearms from Sacco Limited. Oh, okay. Yeah, so they are upgrading. Let me pull this up here. They've got a 7.62 rifle here, a 5.56 rifle here, and then what looks like some sort of sharpshooting marksman rifle here. Basically a longer barrel version. So they are upgrading. Which is very, very interesting. Let me pull this back up.
To the modern era. So this being a NATO gun, and the Swedes having deployed to a number of countries, this has been battle proven and combat tested. So that does make it cool. This gun has a lot of pop culture. I think we all think of Detective Hannah. So the AK5 is not only battle tested and proven in that sense, being the global war on terror with the Swedes deploying to the Middle East, guns popping up now in Ukraine, different conflicts in the 90s. This thing is a pop culture icon as well, in the sense that a lot of video games picked it up. The Krieg 6, Call of Duty, AK5C, Battlefield 4, you know, DICE being in Sweden. So of course they're probably going to make the gun just a banger, because in that game,
look at that. That's Fallout. Is that Fallout? That's Fallout. It's in Fallout. I didn't know it was in Fallout. That's so cool.
it is. It's a good loadout for an engineer class. And then what we have too is movies, mainly with the FNC heat, but you don't really see any modern AK5 movies coming out. So the reload of Battlefield 4 is 1.85 seconds on the AK5C. Let's see if I can do it faster. Now, I don't have a bolt release on this. I'll have to use the charging handle.
Oh.
That's a funny reload.
Close. Go on, you get it. Oh, that was a better one. That was better. That was better. Wasn't as fast as what it should be though. Oh, he's getting there.
So what is the FNC? Well, not far off. So what is the AK5 like to run and gun with? Well, oh, I can't do that. We'll get to that in a second. Well, so to briefly go over what it's like to shoot with, I will say gun is heavy, so the recoil is very nominal.
It's
the
heavy?
trigger pull is not bad. It's not great, but for military trigger, it's acceptable in my opinion. Whew. It gets hot. As you can see how I touched that top of the rail. So pretty much you're just right onto this.
So it does get hot. It does get hot, which you have to remember, this is a weapon that has been put together, so it's not like the official weapon. But even with that being said, the heat placement's probably going to be very similar to an actual weapon that's on the ground, isn't it?
Plastic for your life to really get a good grip on the gun. The ergonomic of that saw grip may not be to your liking. It may be to your liking. It's up to a user preference. I don't mind it. I kind of like it. The gun is fun to shoot. It's another 5.56 gun to shoot, so it's not as exotic as a lot of the other guns we get on the channel, you know? We're using some very fun exotic guns here, but as a military rifle, I think it's really cool and it is aesthetically pleasing. Now, in a second, we'll go ahead and break it down, but I did want to talk about some issues we were having. You should see by now, Colton will have edited in all the mess ups when I'm talking about this.
Stoppage.
God dang it!
So it does get a lot of stoppages then. Interesting. Why is it getting so many stoppages?
So there's a number of malfunctions. So what kind of malfunctions? Well, we were getting a lot of failure to extract and then a double feed. So it would fail to extract the case and then it would start to feed in the next round, causing me a double feed in that sense. So I'd have to strip the mag, rack, get that case out of there. Thankfully, it would strip out pretty easy, toss mag in and go back to work. It's happening on some mags, not on the others, but overall, it started to work. Thankfully, this isn't my...
I wonder if that's the magazine that's doing that then. Like, what's making it do that then?
My duty gun. If it was doing that and it was my duty gun, I would be very mad. Now, something to note, this gun will lock back on an open bolt, especially with these mags we're using, but there is no bolt catch on this lower, that being because this isn't a true AK5C. Now, the AK5s, they didn't have that feature until they brought out the AK5C where they added that. Joel went ahead and he added in a faux bolt catch just because there was a hole there, so you can kind of see where that comes into play. But if you put in a fresh mag and you want to drop that gun, there's nothing to drop it with, right? Minus the charging hand.
Interesting.
That is something to take of note. Now, real quick,
yeah, again, that's another you know, unfortunate circumstance of having a weapon that's been put together over time rather than getting an official one. My presumption is if Sweden do get this new rifle that we just looked at on that article, then these older rifles are probably going to get sold somewhere, and you'll probably start seeing more of them on like gun channels and stuff like that. I'm presuming.
Blaze with the manual of arms. Manual of arms being very simple on this gun since there's no bolt catch. You have your mag release, then you have your safety. Safety has no click because it is a full auto selector. Gun's sadly not full auto. There is no click. And then, of course, your trigger. Now, let's go break down the gun. Now, one thing I should have mentioned real quick is going to be the mags. The mags are compatible with they're NATO mags. So I
was going to say, it looks very similar to an SA-80 mag, and that's a NATO mag, so...
You can use them with your AR-15s. There are FN-specific mags that came with the FNC or the AK5, so those are...
They look very similar to the SA-80 ones.
Now, what I wanted to do real quick is, let's break her down and show you what the internals are like. All right, let's break her down real quick. Weapon is safe. Okay. So to break her down, we have 2 pins. Kind of reminiscent of an AR-15, if you're comfy with that, which I am. It feels like home. We pop these bad boys. Boom. Separate upper from lower. We'll do this. Make my life a little bit easier so they're not married together. So now we have our lower right here. Take a look inside. You can see.
You know, it's so interesting because I obviously only got to use a handful of different weapons. And so seeing the internals of these weapons and seeing the similarities to ones that I've used previously is really, really interesting.
See that fire control group, very interesting, very simple looking. So the FNC was on Grantham, and he was doing that ice test that he likes to do. And when it was all frozen up, it did really good, and that makes sense for a gun that is designed to withstand such heavy cold. Maybe that's why the Swedes picked it, because they are the fighting in the Northmen.
Yeah.
Slide her out, cool. All right, knob comes out, big old nice textured knob. And then, is she hot? Is she hot? Can I touch her? Thankfully, the gun is not hot anymore. But now we have the guts of the weapon. We have our long stroke gas piston system and what looks like very reminiscent of an AK lug style bolt, which is really cool. And then we have the firing pin in there. It's kind of like, it's floating. It's a little flaccid in there. Can I say that? Like I'm a child.
He knows exactly what he's doing. Yes, he is a child.
Sorry. And then we have that spring back here, okay?
Yeah,
so
it's very similar to what we've seen before, isn't it?
We got, you get 2 bolt, and we got a bolt, and we toss her back in, and she locks back into place. Gun is very simple, and I can see why they went with such a design, maybe for fighting in, yet again, that cold land up north.
I'd have to watch Granthum's video as well. I'd like to see that cold test that he did with this weapon, if I'm honest with you.
Put it on the dirty tailgate. So then you have our upper, right? Pretty simple to take down and put back together, which I like. I think it's pretty cool. I like that it has that side knob thing. It's very familiar. There, we got to line her up in the hole. Okay, we line her up in the hole. Colton, how's the lighting? Looks nice. And I got my hands dark. I got to get my lead levels checked, dude. Been doing too much. Is admin results natty or not? Lead level check. All right, now we're going to do a little comparison. So the fire control group on the AK5 looks very similar to a lower fire control group on a SCAR 16.
Wow, it does, doesn't it? It's very similar.
So that's really kind of neat.
Do you know, I'm learning so much with watching these videos with you guys, and that's the whole point of me watching these videos. But like, watching the ones with all the people who get into the internals of the weapons, I'm learning so much that I didn't know that there's some stuff that I didn't know I already knew just because I've obviously used and maintained a weapon myself in the military. And there's lots of different variants of weapons, and I've used quite a few different variants of weapons, and I've learned stuff just naturally through doing that a long time ago. And a lot of stuff's coming back to me again from being in the Royal Marines, and a lot of stuff are like, oh yeah, like I know all about this, and stuff that I didn't think was universal around some of these weapons, and it turns out it is, especially because the SA-80 is a bullpup. But at the same time, I also did shoot other rifles like the L129, L129, which is like a marksman rifle, which does have very similar kind of internals.
You can kind of see a lot of influence, and nothing is new under the sun. So the original prototype for a SCAR 16 lower was just a FNC lower. So real quick on the stock manipulation, there's a little button down here. You pull that down and you push it down, and then you can fold that stock up. Doesn't lock in, boop, pop her open. Good for armored vehicles. Now, earlier in the video, I hinted about acquiring your own Swedish AK5. And well, to be honest, it's gonna take a little bit of crime. So let's dive on in how to get one. So essentially what you're gonna need to do, you're gonna need to hire out some pretty young woman. She's gonna go have to target, you're gonna have to do your homework, target a specific lonely Swedish soldier that is down bad. Use that woman to seduce that soldier, lure him back to her lair, at which point you'll knock him out with some...
Lure her back to her lair. Lure him back to his little lair, that's so funny.
And then you can steal his Swedish AK5. Now here comes the tricky part. Getting it home. You're gonna need to charter a smuggling vessel of sorts with a shady smuggler character.
Oh my
He's gonna
God.
be a shady smuggler who completed the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. It's gonna be impressive. Now,
I love this guy's videos. He's literally like my type of person, isn't he?
you charter that vessel, you take it home, and you bring home the booty. That's essentially, I mean, that's how I would do it, if I'm being honest. But other than that, it's pretty hard to get these bad boys here. You're gonna have to do some wheeling and dealing around the world and figure out how to get all the parts necessary to actually do it. So the Swedish AK5, man, the gun is freaking cool, I will say. If you're a big fan of this platform.
It's a good looking weapon as well, isn't it? The only thing that I'm a bit iffy about is that front handguard, which I've already said. That's the only thing. The rest of it looks really cool. And, you know, they are changing it. They are modifying it to a newer weapon, which is very interesting. I wonder if the newer weapon... Yeah, we already said that the 7.62 and 5.56, didn't we? So they are sticking with NATO rounds unlike the US, which is very interesting. It makes me wonder, like, I need to watch a video on the reasoning behind the US changing from NATO rounds. I think that would be a very interesting video to make. I think Grand Thumb has a video on that. I might be wrong.
Then I hope this episode was a treat to you. Aesthetically, the gun is pleasing. It has a lot of pop culture value to it. It is a cool military weapon that has been battle proven now. So there's a lot that goes into a firearm like this, and it tells a cool story. It tells a story of service for a different nation's people that have used it, and it has a rarity factor with not many of these floating around in the United States, them making it, as Larry Vickers would say, moon rock rare. So getting a Swedish AK5 on the channel is a real treat. If you're someone out there that has access to an AK5C, hey, let me know. I'd love to do a video on that bad boy. Bad boy counter. I know we're at the end. I don't know how many I said this entire video. Gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section.
That was a really good video. Is that pretty much the end?
Sacrifice. Your comments are a sacrifice to the algorithm. God of what you enjoy Swedish military history. If you want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, Patreon, excellent way to support the channel, as well as merchandise.
Don't forget, there will be links down in the description if you want to watch his video without me waffling over the top. There is what looks like a section at the end here of bloopers, which I'm always a big fan of people adding. I like when people on YouTube are real people and they actually add, like me, was it this video? The last video I made, yesterday's video, I like ran to go and get a tissue for my nose because I got a cold. Like, I like videos where people see the real person behind the screen. I really do. And so watching bloopers and stuff like that is a big positive for me.
I have nothing else for you. Roll the bloopers. Are you filming? Stop. Hey, Joel, why does your gun suck? Y'all want to see a magic trick, dude? Put those in the bloopers. Yeah. Hold on 1 sec. Always a plane.
I wonder where they are. In
There's
Texas
always
again?
A plane, dude.
Is it
Always
Texas?
a plane when we're filming. It shows up. And now this part has to end up in the bloopers.
Arizona, New Mexico, like...
That's a joke. I'm not going to go to prison violating FAA rules. Oh. If you're wondering what AK
Falls after it.
stands for, if you're looking at the scene saying, hey, wait a second, admin, that doesn't look like an AK-47 platform. Well, guess what, viewer? And you'd be right to ask that thing because as this is what we would call the automatic, essentially it's and what they have now is a
All right, we're going to end it there. Great video. Again, there'll be a link down in the description if you want to watch it without me waffling over top of it. I've got some great videos coming up in the next few days, so definitely don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Links all down below in the description for everything. Everything. Yeah. That's it. If you want to look at the equipment that I use for recording, there'll be links in the description for that as well. Next week, I'm thinking of doing a live stream. We've got some Call of Duty Black Ops 6 announcements coming up, I'm sure, because I just dropped a teaser trailer. So we'll be watching some Black Ops 6 trailers, I'm sure, in the near future, which I'm kind of missing playing video games on this channel. Do you guys miss that? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Until next time, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.